Kenny Hoarth Gardening Simplified. It's April 26th, and I'm out here in the greenhouse. It's raining, and with the greenhouse, you can always do some gardening. But anyway, we're going to talk about today maintaining tomatoes and some little tips that you might need. Now, what I'm doing out here today is I'm taking care of my tomatoes. Now, these already have clips, and as you can see, you can buy these. I get mine on Amazon, and if I think about it, I'll put a link down in the description. But these make it real easy to fasten these up. I just run a string up to the top, and then I take, and every so often I'll fasten these up. Now, these are cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes are indeterminates. I try to keep these at 2 liters. And what we talk about liters are these stems that comes up. I'll take off all the other suckers. Now, what we talk about suckers, now we've taken some off, and you can see them up here where these have been pinched off. Right here, you can see a little bitty one coming back, and a lot of times I can pinch them off. But down here we have another one. Now, they won't necessarily all come from the top. We'll have them come back all the way down. Now, when you have them little like that, they're easy enough to pinch off. Now, we've got a lot of tomatoes forming on here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time today, and I'm going to get rid of some of this foliage, because when you have tomatoes set, a good rule of thumb is take off all the foliage below the tomatoes. And if I have a clip and it might be holding it up, I cut the branch just a little bit long. But what you're trying to do is, now see this sucker that got missed down here and it's getting big? Go ahead, cut it off. We don't want any suckers down there on the bottom. I have been known to get in here in a hurry and cut some tomatoes off. Let's hope I don't do that today. Sit here talking and not pay attention. We have another sucker over here, as you can see, that because the limb's been hiding it, we'll just take that off. And we have more. I'm going to take these up a little bit higher. And what that does is leave a lot of area for air to move up underneath the plant. But when you come in here and start trimming, this is what you're going to do. Don't worry about it. You're not going to hurt that plant. I don't recommend, if a sucker's very big, to take and snap it off. It's always best to get some cutters once they get a little bit of size to them. And it is kind of hard. I got another sucker around there in the limb. We'll get them both at one time. Got another batch right there. But what we end up with is the whole bottom is clean. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you want to keep these tomatoes shaded. Well, especially here in the greenhouse, we're not worried about this. But we're never worried about taking the lower ones off for about 1 foot to 18 inches, because what we don't want, if they're not in a greenhouse and it's watering and it's splashing up from the rain, you don't want it to get on the leaves and cause disease, and this is the best way. And at the same time, whenever you do that, if you're going to keep a clean garden, all these little weeds and all come in and all weed this whole area at the same time. But we'll take care of all of these here, and sometimes we find a whole lot that we missed, and some are fairly large. You can see like this, and there's a few over there that's really large. But we'll get this last little bit cut. Now, hopefully I'll get these cut without taking out my string. A lot of times I tend to not pay real close attention where I'm cutting, and I cut my line off there. But anyway, as you can see in here now, there's plenty of airflow to the ground. That'll help the top dry. It'll cut down on disease, mildews and funguses. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the top. There's some more sometimes I'll get where a leaf will start coming out. Now these are indeterminates because they're cherry tomatoes. Most cherry tomatoes are indeterminates. Let me get back there. And at the top, be careful at the top because you want to know where your top is. Now, a lot of times your suckers come out in the armpit, they'll say, or maybe the elbow or something of a leaf. And once it starts coming out, it tends to kick the top over. But what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that out. But make sure you don't cut the top because you'll be able to see it. But if you pinch it, you'll have to, and you still want 2 liters, you'll have to wait for a sucker to come out and allow it to finish up. But there are so many of these that are in here, and on tomatoes, if you want a good crop of tomatoes, you have to do this regularly. You can't say every 2-3 weeks I'm gonna come out here and do some pruning because that's not going to work. And these things are like I say, they're all over. Now, if you can't determine on the top one which is which, like I say, it comes out as a branch, let it get a little bit bigger. Now, I've got to go back through here. I trimmed all the leaf, but I got to go back through here and make sure if I have any more suckers that I missed, because well, you're doing 2 things at one time. A lot of times one thing gets missed, and that's why some of these are quite long. Now this sucker here could be used. What you can do is plant and pot up suckers, and what I do is when I'm going to pot up a sucker, say like that, this would be plenty enough. You could cut one more leaf off if you wanted to stress it. Now I'm not going to plant any up right now, but just put this in potting soil. A lot of people want to put them in water and let them root. It's better just put them in soil. If you have a cell tray, put them in a Dixie cup, put them in. They'll root out where all these little hairs are on here. They'll start sprouting roots out all along there. So if I was going to plant it, I'd plant it right up next to the ground. Once leaves start coming out, you can trim off the lower ones. That's when you get one that's big like this that you let go, don't plant this big thing in there. All you're going to do is it's going to have a hard time stressing. Now this has got a sucker coming out there too, another sucker off of a sucker. But what you do is take and cut this thing back until you don't want any fruiting things on there. But you could leave that, try it, or better success, cut it back like this. Just put it in potting soil and keep it moist. Don't try to plant a big plant and leave a bunch of leaves, because what's going to happen, now you can do that in water a lot of times because it's soaking it up, but it's kind of a shock when you move it from water to dirt. So if you go straight to dirt, it'll do fine. Just keep it moist. But this would grow you a complete other tomato like this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little section here. Now, these are indeterminates, and a lot of times that's the way we do it. Now, if you're dealing with determinants, you have a choice. You can prune or not prune. Determinants, like are celebrity tomatoes, they're designed to put on a bunch of tomatoes at one time. As you can see, indeterminates, it's putting on tomatoes, it's putting on some more tomatoes, it's putting on some more tomatoes, it's putting on more tomatoes. They're made to keep putting on tomatoes. The indeterminates, they'll try to put all theirs on at one time, and then what'll happen is they'll try to ripen up that whole crop. Now they might intermittently put on a few others, but normally they're one and done. Indeterminates, or they're more of a longer season crop. So if you want some to can, determinants would be what you'd want, because you could have a bunch at one time for preserving. If you're wanting some for slicers later on, you want to have you some indeterminates in there. But I hope this is helpful. If you want to see more, you know what to do. Enjoy that gardening experience. Okay, and for those of you that stuck past the end all the way through, let's see here. Now you can see these determinants. They got about 2-inch tomatoes on there. It's going to be a while still, but you can see how they're setting. And if you look at these, you say, which one of these tomato plants ain't like the other one? And that would be this one, and that's because it's a cherry tomato and got put in the wrong spot. But these are all determinants. You see how well they're flowering. Now they do set a little bit of fruit, but they set it pretty much where it's going to be all set at one time. And these are cut good, got plenty of airflow now, and I'm keeping these to a couple of liters. Now, if I had baskets or I didn't have them packed in here so tight, you could let all the suckers run. Your tomatoes might not be as big, but you'd have a lot of them, so it'd kind of make up. They'd probably be the same overall poundage. I'm not going to get all scientific on that. But anyway, thanks for watching to the end. Enjoy.